Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Yi Yulin squinted and said, without a doubt, these enemies come from the 3 empires of the original Doluo continent. I rushed there and saw a protective soul barrier. That means that those people constructed a soul formation outside Radiant City as a defensive measure. This soul formation was also constructed at such an opportune time. It seems to coincide with the period of time that our aerial surveillance soul tools were chain-bombed. It's terrifying if they had planned and calculated everything. This would also mean that they are the ones responsible for bombing our soul tools. Shu Tianran took in a deep breath and suppressed his anger. Can someone tell me how our aerial surveillance soul tools were bombed? If our enemies were responsible for it, how did they do so without anyone's knowledge? Another worshipped said, according to my observation and judgment, our aerial surveillance soul tools are likely to have self-destructed. If it was the work of our enemies, we would have discovered it immediately. At the same time, we would have used our soul formations to stop them. Whatever it is, they wouldn't have been able to destroy all our surveillance soul tools. Self-destructed. Shu Tianran glared. Following this, he felt an excruciating pain in his chest, and had no choice but to suppress his anger once again. That worshipped laughed bitterly. From the current situation, that seems to be the case. If it wasn't, there is another possibility, that explosive charges were installed on our aerial surveillance soul tools. That's the only way they could all be bombed at the same time under some kind of control. This also means that it's likely our enemies possess some kind of ability that helped them to escape the detection of our soul tools, and at the same time, sneak their way to install explosive charges on them. Once he said this, everyone went silent. His analysis was shocking. If the invading enemies were able to mysteriously sneak their way past the aerial surveillance soul tools, did that also mean that they could also sneak into the palace? Wouldn't they be able to do anything they wanted if that was the case? This time, the Class 9 stationary soul shell only exploded after breaking through their defense. What if their enemies had placed a Class 9 stationary soul shell in the palace? It was unimaginable. Yi Yulin nodded and said, Old Shen is right. I find it very weird too. The light was distorted in their soul formation. Given my ocular and spiritual power, I was still unable to tell what was going on. Then, 3 of us advanced at the same time, and 7 to 8 enemies came forward to deal with us. They were very strong. I believe they had to be at least Soul Doluo. However, most of them weren't soul engineers, but soul masters. Their martial souls were very strong too, especially that of the leader. He seemed to be wearing a human-shaped soul tool, which exuded an extremely strong chilly energy. They coordinated with one another very well. Also, Yi Yulin recounted his fight with Huo Yuhao and the rest. After his recounting, most of the senior officials in the Sun Moon Empire found it ridiculous. Such opponents couldn't be dealt with easily. From the situation then, I believe that they must have possessed some kind of concealment-type soul tool. That's why they were able to get close to Radiant City without being detected. Some of the stronger ones can even isolate the detection abilities of most of our surveillance soul tools. At the same time, they also possessed soul tools that are offensively strong. I believe there were at least 2,000 stationary soul cannon shells raining down on our soul formations. Only the 3 empires of the original Doluo continent are capable of coming up with something like this. Perhaps this was their trump card. On the battlefield, they can't challenge the war god Empress. That's why they came up with such a strategy. They exploited our hollowness at the back and attacked us. However, I don't understand how they were able to move so quickly. They were just in the south, but soon came close to Radiant City. Even if they were all soul engineers, it's not possible that all of them have been equipped with Class 8 flying-type soul tools. Shu Tianran furrowed his brow and also went into deep thought. This was really an incomprehensible situation. Every one of them was confused. This was because they hadn't found out what their enemies were really like. The more unknown an enemy, the more terrifying he was. This was something that everyone understood. Your Majesty. At this moment, Yi Shishui suddenly spoke. What? Shu Qianran turned toward Yi Shishui and suddenly became respectful. Yi Shishui was an ultimate Doluo. In terms of cultivation, she was already the best in the Sun Moon Empire. Moreover, she even controlled the death god. Tell me what you think. Shu Qianran didn't directly call her Yi Shishui. He had a more personal connection with her, but everyone knew that she held true authority in the Holy Ghost Church. That was why he naturally didn't dare to directly call her by her name in front of all the gathered officials. Yi Shishui said, "They don't have to come from the three empires to possess such strength. Don't forget, there's another place that's capable of all this." Shu Qianran suddenly thought of something, and his expression instantly changed. Are you talking about Shrek Academy? Yi Shishui nodded. That's right, I'm talking about them. Think about it, Your Majesty. The Heavenly Soul Empire was wiped out on the battlefield. While Shrek Academy stepped in, they only managed to save some of the remaining members of the regime. They didn't manage to achieve anything substantial. That's not very characteristic of Shrek Academy. What happened wasn't a true representation of their strength. Perhaps they did really conserve their strength. However, why can't it be that Shrek Academy wasn't at full strength? According to our intelligence, Shrek City has been expanding over the past few years. It has something to do with the soul beasts in the Great Star Do Forest. Remember that kid called Huo Yuhao? After constructing the Spirit Pagoda, he ended the hostility between the Great Star Do Forest and Shrek Academy. A few years ago, he demonstrated his concealment abilities when the Star Luo Empire regained control of the Mingdo mountain range. Then, he was only discovered because he triggered my spiritual barrier. He even borrowed the beast god Di Qian's strength to resist me. He also appeared on the battlefield once, and caused us to lose many aerial surveillance soul tools. It seems like he's the one responsible for all this. If he's the one who came up with the new soul tools that Shrek Academy has developed, I wouldn't be surprised at all. After hearing Yi Shishui's words, Shu Qianran also recalled Huo Yuhao. However, he continued furrowing his brow. Is that even possible? How old is he? He wasn't even 20 when he represented the Tang sect in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. Although years have passed, he's still barely 20. Shu Qianran's impression of Huo Yuhao was still very deep. This wasn't just because he was very strong. It was also because he appeared in a wheelchair back then. That left a deep impression on him. Yi Shishui snorted. Nothing is impossible. He's the closed-door disciple of the dragon god Doluo Mu En. He also possesses twin martial souls. Earlier, Yi Yulin mentioned that his opponent wore a human-shaped soul tool, and exuded intense chilly energy from his body. I think it's likely that it's this kid. He possesses an ultimate ice martial soul. Shu Qianran was in disbelief as he said, however, Old Yi said that his opponent's ability was definitely at the standard of a titled Doluo. Without the use of powerful soul tools, he wasn't confident of defeating his opponent. Yi Shishui sighed and said, Your Majesty, you must not be deceived by appearances. Furthermore, there are extremely talented people in this world. From the current situation, the three empires, or rather, the two empires, aren't the only ones who can truly threaten us. It's Shrek Academy. Your Majesty, you just need to give the order to the War God Empress to assault Shrek City and destroy them. Then, the mastermind will also cave in naturally. When that happens, no matter what methods they use to fight, they must return to Shrek City. On an open battlefield, they won't be able to achieve much. You must not do that. The Chief Minister stood up and said, I think that now is not yet the time to challenge Shrek Academy directly. Your Majesty, please think through it first. Chief Minister, please tell me what you think. Shu Qianran nodded at him, signaling him to speak his thoughts. Although there were problems with the Chief Minister's strategy this time, it was mainly because their enemies were too extraordinary. They couldn't be judged using common logic. After calming down, Shu Qianran was in a much better mood. he still valued the opinion of his wise chief minister very much. He was also aware of Yi Shishurei's hatred of Shrek Academy. That was why it was inevitable that she would mix some of her personal opinions into her professional judgment. The chief minister said, earlier, the Supreme Worshipped also mentioned that Shrek Academy has a long history. They were already the #1 academy on the continent 10,000 years ago. We don't know how strong they are. The most recent war involving Shrek City was the beast wave from the Great Star Doe Forest. As the habitat of the strongest soul beasts on this continent, including 5 out of the 10 great savage beasts, the Great Star Doe Forest is very strong and terrifying. Even so, Shrek City remained firm, though it was subjected to a relentless beast wave. Shrek City even used some kind of special power to keep Di Qian from appearing on the battlefield. The Supreme Worshipped also mentioned earlier that Huo Yuhao can borrow Di Qian's strength. What does this mean? If we turn our attention to Shrek City, we might catalyze an alliance between Shrek City and the Great Star Doe Forest. When that happens, it might lead to a complete disaster for our army. I believe that Shrek Academy is still the most neutral force on the continent. Even though it's likely to be more inclined towards the Three Empires due to its geographical location, and once fought us, because of the Three Empires, things are different this time. The Heavenly Soul Empire has already been wiped out. If we defeat both the Douling and Star Luo empires, Shrek City will have no choice but to compromise even if it doesn't want to. The prerequisite is that we don't touch them. At least speaking from the current situation, we cannot treat Shrek City as our main target. Otherwise, the Star Luo and Douling empires can use Shrek City as a core to resist our army. Along with the soul beasts in the Great Star Doe Forest, I can't imagine the consequences. Rubbish! Yi Shishurei shouted coldly, you don't know anything. The Great Star Doe Forest and Shrek Academy teaming up together. That's nonsense. Although Huo Yuhao's Spirit Pagoda has made relations more cordial between the forest and the academy, you must not forget the inherent dilemma that exists between humans and soul beasts. Will soul beasts come forward in large numbers to aid humans? That's just ridiculous. They can't wait for humans to kill one another. Then, no humans will try to obtain soul rings anymore. Your analysis is just plain stupid. I'm only thinking for the Empire, the Chief Minister replied coldly, please watch your words. Shrek Academy is a holy ground to the Three Empires of the original Doluo continent. In addition, it's the same for many hidden sects. They share a close relationship, and this has been the case for thousands of years. Once we target Shrek Academy, it's like inviting all the sects in the Three Empires to come together to fight us. Is that going to be beneficial for the Empire? After listening to the Chief Minister's words, Shu Qianran couldn't help but nod. Shrek Academy was too significant. Thousands of years ago, they had teamed up with the Three Empires of the original Doluo continent to defeat the Sun-Moon Empire. The Sun-Moon Empire and the Sun-Moon continent were then fused into the Doluo continent. This time, the Sun-Moon Empire was the aggressor. Suddenly, they had occupied the Heavenly Soul Empire in such a short period of time. The Three Empires had misjudged the Sun-Moon Empire's advantage in terms of soul tools. This was an important reason for their failure. Shrek Academy was not yet involved in the war. And in fact, the Sun-Moon Empire's advantage in terms of soul tool technology was even greater this time. From the current situation at least, Shrek Academy still had yet to fully join in the war. Yi Shishurei said, Shrek Academy will join the war sooner or later. What's the difference if it's now or if it's later? Furthermore, this matter clearly has something to do with Shrek Academy. Attacking Shrek Academy is the most direct and effective option. Don't tell me that you're going to ignore the fundamentals. Do you have a better plan? The Chief Minister said, we've already occupied the entire Heavenly Soul Empire. At this time, consolidation is key. We can ask the War God Empress to temporarily send some stronger individuals back. We can continue the war once we take care of things internally. At the same time, we can also consolidate our reign over the Heavenly Soul Empire, and use their wealth to further our research and manufacturing of soul tools. Stability should be our utmost priority. Your Majesty, it's very important to stabilize our back. Without the War God Empress to protect you, I'm a little worried about your safety. Xu Qianran's expression changed slightly. I don't need a woman to protect me. I have the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. However, we need to find these enemies in our territories quickly. Does anyone have a good plan? He swept his gaze across all the senior officials. Most of them were silent. Yi Shishure said coldly, Your Majesty, my opinion is completely professional. Huo Yuhao relied on his spiritual power to conceal himself. If he has really cultivated to a title Doluor in a short few years, he's likely to be a major threat to our empire, as a title Doluor with an ultimate martial soul. We need to get rid of him as quickly as possible. We've not even invented concealment-type soul tools yet, thus it's impossible for Shrek Academy to have done so. In my opinion, that Soul Engineer Legion that snuck into our territories is likely to have relied on Huo Yuhao's concealment abilities. If we attack Shrek Academy, at least we'll force him and his Soul Engineer Legion to retreat. That's the best way. If Your Majesty wants to rule the entire continent, you'll need to deal with Shrek Academy soon. The conflict between us and Shrek can never be resolved. A victor must be decided. Don't tell me you want to wait until they become more powerful. As long as the War God Empress quickly destroys Shrek City, the world of Soul Masters would most certainly become divided. I believe that she can do this, given her military intelligence. As long as Your Majesty agrees, I'm willing to lead the Holy Ghost Church to coordinate with the War God Empress. The Chief Minister hurriedly said, Your Majesty, you must not do that. Your Majesty, there will be no going back once you do that. If you don't succeed, all our previous victories will have been for nothing. Please think it through. We are in an advantageous situation right now. It's best to pursue stability. Yi Shishure finally became angry. An ice-cold, chilly intent shot out from her eyes. The surrounding temperature fell dramatically, and she unleashed a terrifying oppressive force. Once the Death God was infuriated, even the weather could change. Everyone could sense her terrifying aura, which threatened to tear their bodies apart. At this moment, Elder Kong, who had been standing beside Xu Qianran all this while, took a step forward. Green lights flashed on his body, and a gentle force spread out. It reached towards Yi Shishure, clashing with her aura. Yi Shishure snorted coldly, and Elder Kong also shook slightly. Although he was slightly disadvantaged, he didn't suffer too greatly. Elder Kong looked at Yi Shishure. He was now directly facing the Death God Doluor. Both of them were pitting their auras against each other, and they didn't give in at all. When Yi Shishure erupted in anger, the Chief Minister immediately turned pale. However, everything returned to normal once Elder Kong made a move. Elder Kong was not completely overwhelmed when he faced the Death God Doluor by himself. If this spread, it would astonish the world of Soul Masters and Soul Engineers. Yi Shishure groaned, Kong Deming, do you really have to pit yourself against me? Elder Kong replied, this is the Imperial Palace. Supreme Worshipped, please watch your behavior in front of His Majesty. Yi Shishure twisted her head to look at Xu Qianran, Your Majesty, is this what you want? Xu Qianran coughed. Supreme Worshipped, please calm down. I know you are only thinking for the Empire. However, we need to really ponder this matter. It has too many implications. Where's the military chief? The military chief rushed out from a corner. Your Majesty, I'm here. Tell me your suggestions, Xu Qianran demanded. Yi Shishure stood to one side and silently looked at Xu Qianran. She retracted her aura, but continued to look cold. She felt that he was straying out of her control. Yi Shishure very well knew who Kong Deming was. He was the master of the worship hall of the Sun Moon Empire. He was 1/4 royal blood, and was only loyal to the imperial family. He was also the top soul engineer in the Sun Moon Empire. Yes, the strongest soul engineer in the Sun Moon Empire wasn't the Death God Doluor Yi Shishure, but this person who only appeared to be inferior to her. Yi Shishure even had to admit that she was inferior to him. Kong Deming was already more than 150 years old. He was the chief of all the Class 9 Soul Engineers in the Sun Moon Empire, and a rank 94 titled Doluo. However, very few people knew that he had twin martial souls. Not only was he the strongest soul engineer in the Empire, but he was also a very strong soul master. If not for the fact that he placed most of his energy on researching soul tools, he might not actually be inferior to Yi Shishui, Long Xiaoyao, and any other ultimate Doluo in terms of his cultivation. He was also the closest to becoming a Class 10 soul engineer. Yi Shishui's knowledge of soul tools wasn't very good. After all, she was a soul master. Her death god was mainly constructed by Kong Deming. That's why even Yi Shishui had to give in to Kong Deming a little too. She was well aware of how strong he was. If she had to appraise Kong Deming, she could only use the word unpredictable. This was because no one had seen Kong Deming make a move for at least 50 years. No one knew how powerful he actually was. Whether it was Long Xiaoyao or Yi Shishui, they had no confidence in beating him. This showed how strong he was. Initially, Kong Deming rarely came out from the worship hall. He devoted all his energy to his soul tool research. It was only recently that he finally appeared in public, after he successfully researched human-shaped soul tools. What left Yi Shishui surprised was that Kong Deming actually fully supported Xu Qianran. He was completely on his side. Yi Shishui had no choice but to refrain from offending him, and her perception of Xu Qianran also changed. She knew that she couldn't threaten his life. When the explosion occurred, Kong Deming was researching soul tools in his own laboratory. If he were by Xu Qianran's side, Xu Qianran wouldn't have been hurt. When Kong Deming stepped out, all the other soul engineers immediately unleashed their auras, which combined with his. This was power. He was the true number one soul engineer of the Sun Moon Empire. Even Jing Hongchen had to be respectful to him. The same applied to Yi Yulin. Seeing that Yi Shishui had retracted her aura, Kong Deming also returned to Xu Qianran's side, and his own aura returned to normal too. As the military chief spoke, he also glanced at both of them occasionally, especially Kong Deming. Seeing that Elder Kong didn't give any gestures, he continued speaking. Your Majesty, I think that both the Supreme Worshipped and Chief Minister are both right. However, both their ideas are flawed in their own way. Given the current situation, being overly aggressive or overly conservative is not ideal. Oh? Xu Qianran was a little stunned as he looked at the military chief. He had called him out to act as a balance between both the Chief Minister and Supreme Worshipped. Who knew that he actually had a constructive suggestion? This gave Xu Qianran a delightful surprise. The military chief said, "The Chief Minister's proposition is indeed apt, but we are doing very well now. If we call the War God Empress back right now, I'm afraid we'll miss out on a good opportunity. But this is also not the time to attack Shrek Academy. That's why both their suggestions are problematic." The Chief Minister snorted coldly and jibed, "Stop beating around the bush. If you have a plan, just say it." The military chief looked at the Chief Minister. Everyone knew that neither of them liked each other. The military chief was also usually the one that was constantly repressed. In terms of abilities or experience, he was inferior to the Chief Minister. His only advantage was his age. The military chief confidently said, "Why not do it this way? We shall inform the War God Empress about the situation in the Empire, and let her decide what to do. Our enemies are very active right now, and their strategy is a little unclear. In terms of military matters, Her Majesty is the next best, apart from Your Majesty. Why don't we let her judge the situation and give you suggestions? She's at the front line, and thus she's naturally more aware of the situation there. If she thinks it's a good time to attack Shrek Academy, I think you can make a decision." The military chief was clever in the sense that he could correctly judge the relationship between Xu Qianran and Zhu Zi. As the emperor, Xu Qianran would only pass the authority of the entire military to someone if he trusted that person. Moreover, the crown prince came from the empress. No one would suspect her loyalty to the empire and Xu Qianran. Currently, no one challenged the crown prince for the throne. Given this, how could Xu Qianran not possibly trust his wife? The chief minister didn't have any good ideas, so he pushed all the responsibility to Zhu Zi. His analysis was also very logical. That's why his idea wasn't a reflection of his abilities, but how he was very politically intelligent. Indeed, the chief minister's expression changed when he heard his words. However, he couldn't rebut him at all. On the other side, the death god Doluo Yi Shishui also furrowed her brow. After this, she slowly nodded. They only agreed with the military chief's words, because Zhu Zi was both loyal to the empire and also very strong. Zhu Zi was the one who had led the empire to victory over the Heavenly Soul Empire. Yi Shishui had joined in that operation too. After attacking the Mingdo mountain range, she suddenly turned back and assaulted the Heavenly Soul Empire. At the same time, all information was sealed. This series of missions was part of the fighting strategy that had played a very crucial role in the war. After this, the Sun Moon Empire was relentless and occupied most parts of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Some people even commented that the Sun Moon Empire would have dominated the entire continent by now if not for the fact that the war god Empress was pregnant with the crown prince. After Xu Tianran listened to the military chief, he appeared much more cheerful. Yes. It's necessary to get Zhu Zi's opinion right now. After all, she's the one in control of the front lines. She'll know how to deal with the current situation. Xu Tianran turned to Kong Deming and asked, Elder Kong, what suggestions do you have? Kong Deming said, our enemies were also a little lucky to have successfully pulled off their attacks. At the same time, they must have known that the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion is not in Radiant City from some unknown channel. If you want me to judge the situation, I believe that our enemies might not just possess concealment abilities, but also spatial abilities. Spatial abilities. After hearing these two words, Xu Tianran was astonished. So was Yi Shishui. If someone else said this, they would laugh it off. However, Kong Deming was different. He was currently the person with the most expertise in soul tool research. As for spatial abilities, only Yi Shishui among everybody present could be associated with it. Only an ultimate Doluo could really develop any kind of spatial abilities. Even Kong Deming couldn't. There was also an unbridgeable gap between current soul tool technology and spatial abilities. After Yi Yulin listened to Kong Deming's words, he seemed to be very pensive. Xu Tianran said, Elder Kong, please be more specific. Kong Deming nodded and said, Little Yi just recounted the entire story, but he missed out one point. He thought that the enemies are two Soul Engineer legions. However, he only saw one legion retreating. What about the other legion then? The other Soul Engineer Legion should be the one firing all the shells. From the fired shells, I believe they came from Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannons, which are manufactured by the Tang sect. We've also obtained Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannons from the Heavenly Soul Empire. I've taken a simple look at them. The internal structure of the Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannons manufactured by the Tang sect is very exquisite, but these cannons have self-destruction components. I couldn't really examine them well. There are some elements of non-core formations that were used in these cannons. I believe this is the reason for the Tang sect's meteoric rise. Such Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannons can continuously fire shells, and the number of shells that can be fired is great. However, they aren't small. Given this, they'll need a large number of such cannons if tens of thousands of shells are to be fired. This is very important. They were only able to suppress us because they had so many shells. They should have more than 100 Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannons. If they want to retreat, they can't possibly do it with just a single individual's concealment soul skill. Even an ultimate Doluo can't do that. This is why I believe they must possess some kind of spatial ability, which allows for the rapid shifting of all these soul tools. Xu Tianran was horrified. Don't tell me there's a spatial soul tool. How is that possible? Even you. Kong Deming gestured and said, I've indeed not researched any soul tools related to spatial abilities, but I can't be sure that there's no talent in this world who's capable of doing it. However, from the current situation and the foundation of soul tool technology that's currently present, I believe it's difficult for spatial soul tools to have been invented. After all, spatial storage is already the limit. The transport of people, and at such a large scale, is yet to exist. We have to investigate this matter carefully. If it's really a spatial soul tool, we must risk everything to obtain it. That'll be very significant to the development of our soul tools. Xu Qianran nodded and said, "What do you suggest then?" Kong Deming said, "Let's report the situation to the War God Empress first. If the supreme worshipped is right, Huo Yuhao is likely to be the one responsible for the spatial soul tool, or for concealing 2 soul engineer legions. We must bring him here and make him confess everything. I'm also very interested in this young man, who has invented spirits and established the spirit pagoda. There's one thing the death god Doluo was right about. This young man is bound to be our nemesis in the future. If we can't win him over, we must get rid of him quickly." At this moment, a loud boom suddenly sounded from afar. Kong Deming subconsciously blocked Xu Qianran, and bright green light immediately covered both of them. The other soul engineers present also quickly reacted. They instantly unleashed their strongest defensive type soul tools. The earlier attack left them extremely alarmed. This sudden boom scared them. Yi Yulin's expression changed. The sound came from the soul formation that previously belonged to our enemies. "Don't tell me they are back." Kong Deming furrowed his brow. "No. The sound doesn't seem right." In just a matter of seconds, news was transmitted over. The soul formation, where many soul tools were left over, experienced a chain explosion. All the remaining soul tools were completely blown apart. In addition, it was also learned that those soul tools all came from the Sun Moon Empire. Xu Qianran almost spat out blood again. He immediately dismissed the meeting. He wanted to write a letter to the War God Empress personally. At the same time, martial law was imposed. There were strict checks to sieve out any possible enemies. While Radiant City was on high alert, the atmosphere in the spectral demiplane was very joyous. 300 Zhuge divine crossbow cannons were all successfully brought back. Even though they fired more than half their remaining stock of soul cannon shells, and caused very little damage to the Sun Moon Empire, they still managed to achieve their strategic goal. The depletion of material resources was nothing compared to the success of their strategic plan. After meditating for an entire day, Huo Yuhao finally recovered to his peak state. Without even guessing, he knew that the surrounding atmosphere in Radiant City was very tense. He didn't rush to go out either. After Bei Bei heard that he was awake, he immediately called for a meeting. Right now, there was no aura of death in the spectral demiplane. The 3 soul engineer legions were all celebrating. It was no wonder they were like that. Although they had fired many soul cannon shells this time, they were fighting Radiant City. It was the core of their enemy's backyard. They had managed to escape completely unharmed in such a fight. It was unimaginable. Whether it was the Heavy Artillery Soul Engineer Legion, or the Tang Sect Soul Engineer Legion, they all gained invaluable experience during this fight. Even though it wasn't a direct clash, the atmosphere had been very tense. Huo Yuhao's commandeering had left a deep impression on the soul engineers in these 2 soul engineer legions. It was also very beneficial to their future development. Huo Yuhao revealed a delightful smile on his face. He clasped his palms in front of his chest. As he looked at his teammates sitting around him, he greeted them before taking a seat beside Bei Bei. Tang Wutong also came with him, and sat beside him. Bei Bei was all smiles right now. Alarm bells should be ringing for the Sun Moon Empire this time. Our experiment has also succeeded. It's just that we don't know how Xu Qianran is. We don't know if he's been killed. Huo Yuhao shook his head and answered, "I'm afraid not. There are many defensive installations in the Imperial Palace, along with many soul engineers. It might still be possible if it were before they researched human-shaped soul tools. However, the possibility is very low right now. It seems like Xu Qianran has many defensive-type soul tools on him, which protect him very well. However, I don't believe that we've not had any influence over him. We bombed the palace this time. I wonder what their reaction will be." Shu Sancha laughed, the best situation is if they pull their people back from the front lines. In that case, we'll have achieved our goal. Furthermore, we can continue to cause trouble in the Sun Moon Empire in the future, restraining and weakening them. In the near future, we might even bring the Sun Moon Empire down. Bei snapped, if it were that easy, would our empire be in so much torment? After the attack on Radiant City, they'll definitely target us. The Sun Moon Empire is technologically advanced. They might research soul tools to target us specifically. Yuhao, that's why you shouldn't enter Radiant City anymore. Huo Yuhao was stunned. Bei had rejected the suggestion that he was about to propose. He laughed bitterly. Eldest senior, how did you know what I planned to do? I only want to see how we've fared. At the same time, I want to know more about the situation at the front lines. After all, information should flow most smoothly in Radiant City. Bei shook his head determinedly and said, our operation was already very dangerous. I can't let you continue to take risks. What have we achieved is already very good. Under such a circumstance, we must try to stabilize our situation first. If we want to obtain intelligence, I'd rather we waste more time trying to gather it at the front lines. After all, given your speed, you can fly there and back in a day. We can't touch Radiant City anymore. There are too many strong people there. If things go awry, you might be trapped. Then, all we've done will go to waste. This video will end here.